I remember one word in Thai, and it is "kopongka."
Yes, but you do have to be careful because car is the female ender. So if you say car, you sound like a woman. So
Oh,
the male one would be more like cap with like a P on the end.
kopongka.
Welcome to English with Lewis. Let's go!
Hello, everybody, and welcome back once again to English with Lewis. And today we're going to have another British English conversation between two teachers, myself and our guest today, Michael. Hello.
Hello, thank you for having me. Very happy to be here.
It's my pleasure. And it's funny because we did this like almost 2 years ago, but it was the opposite way round. And I was on your podcast. So how time flies when you're having fun and creating content, right?
It has gone super fast, and yeah, really nice to be back talking with you. I think a lot has changed since then in the world and in our lives as well. So I'm looking forward to the chat.
Perfect. So first, for anyone who doesn't know you, could you do me a favor and introduce yourself?
Yeah, I'll try. It's always difficult. But as you said, I'm Michael Lavers. I'm from a county called Cornwall, which is in the southwest of England originally. And I've been teaching online since around 2016, 2017, somewhere around there. I never taught in a school. I went straight to online because I love, first of all, the freedom of, being anywhere in the world and being able to teach, but also allowing students from anywhere in the world to access lessons. So that was really important for me. And yeah, I have a podcast now called Level Up English Podcast. And that's what I spend most of my time on these days.
Okay, interesting. So you are kind of the exception because usually when I ask teachers, they're like, oh, yeah, so I was working in an academy. The academy shut down or closed temporarily. And then it was the perfect opportunity to go online. You were ahead of the curve.
Maybe, yeah. It never appealed to me working in a school. I think you have done some schoolwork before, right? But personally, it didn't appeal to me. I didn't have a great experience as a student myself when I was younger, so I never really considered it. But it was very intentional because I love traveling. I love seeing different places. So I felt like having a job in one place wouldn't suit me. So that's why I tried my hardest to do something online.
Awesome. And you're from Cornwall. Cornwall, it's a region at the southwest of England. Many people won't have heard of it, and many more people won't have visited it because it's common for people to go to the UK and visit London, maybe Edinburgh, maybe Manchester. But tell us a little bit more about your region, about Cornwall.
Yeah, I like this question. I'm a big advocate of people visiting Cornwall because it is a little bit out the way, as you said. If you kind of picture the UK as like or Britain like a person sitting down, it's kind of like the feet of the person. It's like right in the corner. But if you're taking the train from London, it might be 3 or 4 hours, maybe 4 hours to Cornwall. It's not actually that far. But the reason why many people don't go there is because there isn't really like a big city, or at least a big well-known city down there. So it's very rural, just countryside, farms, fields, which I think is really beautiful, a very natural kind of vibe. And it's also very famous for beaches. So around the whole coast, there's beautiful beaches, really good for surfing, picnics in the summer only. And yeah, going for walks along the coast, that kind of stuff is good in Cornwall. So if you like that, I recommend a visit.
And you mentioned beaches. I think I've only been to Cornwall once, and I went to Newquay, which is like right in the corner at the end of the peninsula. And it's famous for surfing, isn't it?
I suppose so. I've never tried myself, but yeah, Newquay is one of the most famous kind of tourist spots in Cornwall, maybe. I've only been once, but the water was like crystal clear. And I also saw some seals bobbing up and down in the water, which was really nice.
Hey, beautiful. And I always think of Cornish pasty when I think of Cornwall, which is like a savory pie that's filled with mincemeat and like carrots and celery, perhaps. So this is one famous export of Cornwall. Am I right in also thinking that there is a specific language in Cornwall, Cornish?
Yeah, no, that is correct. Yeah, yeah. It's linguistically very similar to Welsh. Maybe more people might be familiar with Wales. But yeah, it's an old Celtic language that people spoke a long time ago before English took over, which is, a mixture of French and Latin and all this other stuff. But sadly, not many people speak Cornish anymore. There's no native speakers, but there's a few hundred that speak it as a second language. But it might be coming back. We'll see what the future holds.
Okay, interesting. So you're from England, you're from the little corner, the feet of Britain. But at the moment, where do you live?
So yeah, very big change from a sleepy countryside corner of England. About a year ago, I took the big move across the world, and now I'm living in Bangkok in Thailand, having never been here before.
Okay.
Previous to that.
So you went in blind. You had no idea really what it was like. And why Thailand?
Well, to be fair, I had been to Thailand before, but I had been to the north. I hadn't been to Bangkok, so I didn't know what to expect really about the capital city here. But after my first visit before COVID, I knew it was going to be a nice place. Like everyone was so friendly that first time. Things very cheap. I'm not going to lie, that's a big factor. That the cost of living is very cheap. In fact, it's usually cheaper to eat out, like takeaway, rather than cook at home, which, if you're lazy, is a great benefit.
It's perfect.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely not the same in England, is it? But
No way. And I have visited Thailand before, and I remember the beaches were incredible. It was very humid, very warm all the time. And I actually went in like a rainy season, so monsoon season. And it was weird because in the morning, it'd be a beautiful day, the sun was shining, and then all of a sudden, the sky would cloud over and it'd start absolutely pouring down. And it's crazy how much it can change from the morning to the afternoon, which, to be fair, can happen in the UK as well, but not to the same extreme level. Usually it's cloudy and then it starts like just drizzling a little bit. So related to that, are you a fan of the weather in Thailand?
I would say so. Yeah, I'm a big fan. The only thing I don't like is the pollution. That can get worse than the UK. It's not always so healthy, but I like the weather. I mean, it does get very hot. It can get up to 40 degrees here, Celsius. And, it's kind of hot, but it's bearable. I'm adaptable, And it's interesting when it comes to the rainy season, as you said, which we are just heading into now. There's a different attitude. When it rains in England, you notice that people get really depressed and they get very gloomy. Their mood matches the weather, like very dull and dark and not happy. But here, because it is so hot, the rain is like a break from the heat. So when it rains, everyone gets really happy. They're in a good mood. They go out more. When the rain has stopped and the ground is still wet, they'll go outside, and it's a totally different situation from the UK, which is kind of weird to get used to when you've had that connection with rain equals bad your whole life.
Okay. No, it's interesting as well because in Spain, in summer, all of the Spanish and Iberian Peninsula suffers from intense drought, and it gets really, really hot, except maybe in the north of the country. So then when it does rain and you have a little break from the intense heat and the drought, it's like, thank God, this is good for the crops, it's good for the plants, everything's going to be much greener. So I agree with you with this, that in the UK, rain equals sadness. Whereas elsewhere, that's definitely not the case for places that suffer from heat waves, intense heat, and droughts. So yeah, in Thailand, it's similar.
Yeah, opens your mind to different points of view, doesn't it? I think living abroad is nice in that way.
Exactly. And when you live abroad, usually you try to immerse yourself in the culture and the language. I remember one word in Thai, and it is "Kopong ka."
Yes, but you do have to be careful because car is the female ender. So if you say car, you sound like a woman. So
Oh,
the male one would be more like cap with like a P on the end.
"Kopong kap."
Yes, very good, very good.
But how's it going with the language? Are you studying, taking classes at the moment?
I was afraid you might ask this.
Uh-oh.
It's a bit awkward because I'm learning other languages too, and I'm really anxious about adding on Thai, the Thai language, and having it affect my other languages. You know, the more languages you study, the slower you progress in all of them, right? In each one. So you know, I can order a coffee. I can ask, "Where's the bathroom?" This kind of like survival stuff, maybe. But not much more than that, honestly. It's a little bit shameful. But I'm not actively studying. I'm just trying to pick up things as I go about my daily life, you know.
And you know more than me, which is the difference between thank you as a man or a woman. So there we go.
Well, maybe when it comes to your Spanish, it might be a different story, right?
Yeah. But who knows? I think it's always cool, even if you just know a few phrases. Whenever you go traveling, for example, last summer, I went to Albania for a week, and I was really, really convinced that I needed to learn just like hello, thank you, and I don't know, like the bill, these survival phrases. And I still remember thank you, which in Albanian is faleminderit. Faleminderit. And I always
Yeah.
I treat it as like a game and like acting, and it's a little bit funny. It's like faleminderit, kopanka.
And if you ever meet someone from Albania in the future, maybe they're visiting where you are, they're going to feel so warm and like welcomed to your country when you can say a couple words in their language, right?
I just say thank you all the time.
Good to meet you. Thank you.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. Excellent. Now, moving on from Thailand, tell us a little bit more about the podcast. How do you organize yourself to create it, and what is it really focused on?
It has changed somewhat in the, I don't know, I don't even know how long it's been, a few years since I started. I think I started like 2018 or something. But it's changed quite a bit since then. And one area of pride that I have is I've never missed a week. Every single week since we started, it's come out, which is harder than it sounds, right? I'm sure you know.
Yeah. Consistency.
Yes, consistency. In the beginning, there was a lot more about explaining areas of English like grammar or vocabulary, and a lot of it was about motivation too, because I was really into that at the time, like how to learn a language. Here's some tricks, here's some motivational tips, how to have the right attitude to learning, these kind of things. I think there's only so long you can do that though, until you've covered a lot of the main topics. So these days it's much more open, which I feel like people enjoy more. So I pick a random topic usually, or one suggested to me, and I talk about it, and I try to include some useful English stuff in there. So that could be vocabulary, it could be some kind of grammar. Like if I'm talking about future plans, I might want to use a future tense, which is good listening practice. For example, a recent one I did, I spoke about the 80-20 rule. I don't know if you've heard of that, but
it rings a bell. I think I've heard of it, but I don't know exactly what it is.
yeah, you have to listen to the podcast. No, I'm
Well,
kidding.
there we go. Check it out on Spotify, YouTube, the usual stuff, right?
Exactly. Yes. Anywhere you listen to podcasts and YouTube as well. I'm trying to grow on YouTube as well.
Perfect. So yeah, now it's kind of open, I guess, that every week without fail, there is a new podcast, all in English, explaining different things, expressions, phrasal verbs. So yeah, everybody, if you're interested, if you're curious, check out the Level Up English podcast. And yeah, maybe you will level up and improve your English. Fingers crossed.
Yeah, and I don't know how you feel about this, because it was a little while ago. I know it's embarrassing to watch older videos, but if people haven't watched before, they can maybe start with our episode, right? And see a familiar face as well.
Yeah, exactly. I feel like when we organized to meet for this podcast episode, correct me if I'm wrong, but I feel like we were speaking about change.
That sounds right. Yeah, I think you're right. That was maybe around the time when I started introducing random topics such as change into it. So that sounds good. Yeah.
It's weird because sometimes I have a terrible memory and I don't remember what I did last night, or I'm really bad at remembering the right word in the right moment, both in English and other languages that I'm learning. But then I remember really weird, random things. And one thing I remember is that towards the end of the podcast that we recorded together, we taught a nice idiom related to change. And also, I have a plant here. It's related to a plant. And this idiom is to turn over a new leaf. So, Michael,
memory.
putting you on the spot a little bit, what does turn over a new leaf mean?
Yeah, that very good memory. Maybe you've got good selective memory, maybe.
Weird.
If I know the origin correctly, I think leaf is also, it refers to like a page of a book. I don't know if maybe books used to be made from leaves. I don't know. But like turn over a new leaf, it's like turn over a new chapter, like start fresh in your life. So I could say that moving to Thailand, I turned over a new leaf. Maybe in England, I was depressed. I was maybe not such a good person. I changed my character as well. I don't know. It's not for me to say. But when I moved to Thailand, maybe I turned over a new leaf and I changed who I am with a fresh start. Kind of like that, right?
Perfect, exactly. So yeah, to turn over a new leaf is to start fresh and change who you are or your habits, usually for the better. It's usually a positive change.
Yeah.
Wonderful. So we've just taught an idiom. I also said I was going to put you on the spot, which is another expression, which means like to put someone in a position of pressure where you have to think fast and answer a question. So I put you on the spot and you nailed it. You hit the nail on the head. You answered it perfectly. So many expressions.
That's a lot. That's a lot. But yeah, at least those two mean the same thing. Nailed it, hit the nail on the head. Those are really good ones, especially for teachers.
Yeah, I know. Love them. But right now, we're not going to be going over too many expressions unless they come up naturally, because we're going to move on to a conversational phrasal verb activity. And I have a list created by my friend, the robot, ChatGPT, and I typed in on ChatGPT, tell me 20 conversation questions, each of which including a phrasal verb. So we're going to take it in turns and ask each other these questions and teach the phrasal verbs at the same time. So shall we kick off, Michael?
Let's kick off. Let's get started. Yeah.
Awesome. So if you see us looking to one side, you know that we're reading from the chat, but hey, no problem. I'm going to start with a phrasal verb that you used right at the beginning of this conversation. You said you were really looking forward to having this chat. So apart from this conversation, Michael, what are you currently looking forward to?
What am I currently looking forward to? Something happening very soon. I'm going on a trip this weekend to a nearby national park, which I have never been to before. But I'm going with a group of friends, staying for one night. Maybe going to hopefully see some cool animals there. I think there might even be like elephants or something crazy like that. I'm not sure. But anyway, we're going to go here. So I'm really looking forward to this trip.
You're looking forward to seeing elephants, hopefully, maybe.
Yes, but I'm not looking forward to seeing any snakes or scorpions, which I also believe might be there.
Ugh. Yeah, that doesn't sound fun.
Yeah, It's not all good here, but
I guess it's part of the territory, you know, you cannot have the cool exotic animals without having the scary, creepy crawlies at the same time.
yeah, you can't have it all. Yeah, you can't have it all for sure.
Awesome. Well, Michael, over to you. Hit me with a question.
Okay, so I can pick anyone, right? I
You
can.
choose. Surprise me.
I something. This is something that happens to me quite a lot. Even though live in such a big city, it's quite strange. And this is when I run into someone unexpectedly. So, have you had this experience where you live now or recently where you have run into someone that you know or you knew?
Mhm. Um, I have this experience from time to time, usually not with like old childhood friends, but sometimes I'll meet people if we go out for a drink or I go to someone's birthday party, and I'll just like shake their hands and say hello, but I never really connect with them or have a chat with them. And then if I'm walking, for example, to the supermarket, I might run into them and come across them. And maybe I recognize them and I'm not sure if they recognize me. And usually what I do is just ignore them.
Pretend you haven't seen them.
Exactly. And I think most people do this because sometimes I'm looking at the other person, waiting for them to see if they remember me or recognize me. And I'm like, they're just looking at the floor. They're just looking at their phone. They don't even want to say hello. But sometimes that's me as well. So yeah, I run into a lot of people in Brussels because I've met many people without really getting to know them properly. So it's still in that awkward phase in many of my friendships where you know people, but you don't know them well enough to like raise your hand and be like, hey, do you remember me? How are you? So usually I just keep walking. I put my head down and I look at my phone and they do the same thing.
Yeah, sometimes it might be for the best, but I guess it's important to say here that you're not literally running, are you? You're not running into someone. You might be walking, but it just means to meet someone when you weren't expecting it, right?
Exactly. To run into someone, to come across someone. Also, we could say, we could also maybe say to stumble into someone, which is more like if you're actually kind of literally hitting them.
Yeah. Oh, I didn't expect to see you right here in front of me. Yeah.
Like, that's what happens when you look at your phone.
I really get annoyed with people that do that. Walking on the street on their phone, that no idea what's going on.
And has anybody actually stumbled into you because of this?
They have, because I'm very stubborn and I will refuse to move just because of your phone addiction. So I will keep walking. If you walk into me, that's your problem, not mine.
Exactly. That's what you get. Excellent. Okay, my turn. Let me choose another question. Have you ever had to turn down a job offer or an invitation? And why did you turn it down? Why did you reject it?
I have turned down probably dozens of jobs in my life. As I said before, I'm very picky with jobs. And the one that comes to mind is I did a trial shift, which is like a practice run, which was a 12-hour night shift from 6 p.m. to 6 a.m. in a factory. I think I was about 18. And I was just like, just like a robot's job, like packaging these things on an assembly line for like 12 hours with a couple breaks in between. And I really do feel for the people that work there because they're doing it out of necessity, I suppose. But for me, it was so depressing. And I had a little interview at the end of the shift with the manager, and he said, "So how do you think it went? Would you be interested in continuing?" And I just said, "No, it's not for me. Gonna have to turn it down. It's really boring." So that's one example when I turned down a job opportunity, which I don't regret.
And have there been any other like close calls where you were really like deliberating and thinking about it, in depth before making this decision to turn it down?
To be honest, no. It might make for a better story, but I feel like I'm usually very decisive when it comes to jobs. I just know if I'm going to like it or not.
Mm-hmm.
And especially when I was younger, as I said, I was 18, I was much less thoughtful about the implications, the consequences. Like, I'd rather have no job and no money than a job I didn't like, which I think a lot of teenagers can relate to.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, it's always good to be clear about what you want as well. I think this is one of the best things that people can have in life. If from a young age, you are very clear about what you want to do, where you want to work, what kind of routine you want to have. If you know this when you're like 15, then you are kind of way ahead of the rest, because most people have no idea what they want to do until they're in their 20s or even their 30s. Who knows, maybe later. And they'll be like, did I make the right decision? Who knows?
Yeah, that's such good advice. Yeah, know yourself, and then you'll know every choice is going to be easier the more you know yourself, right?
Exactly. Perfect. So that was to turn down, which is to reject. Now, let's do a few more. Michael, over to you.
I have one that I'm really curious about. I want to know if you've ever had a piece of technology break down on you, particularly maybe one that you're using for your work, like your camera, your computer, but maybe you could broaden it a bit if not. So have you ever had something break down?
Yeah, I'd say I've definitely had something break down. And actually, it wasn't something directly linked to work, but it was maybe like a decade ago now, when I graduated and I finished university. As soon as I finished, like without even going to the graduation to celebrate, I went to the United States, and I went there to coach soccer, to teach football as like a summer camp. So we flew into Atlanta, went to the deep south, and every week we would go from a little village and town to town, and we'd stay with a host family in each town. And everybody was really friendly, really welcoming. But of course, America, the United States, is a big place. So you absolutely need to drive and have a car, especially because at the weekend, I'd have to go from Atlanta to Miami, for example, and it'd be a drive of like 12 hours. And I remember when I was on my way, I think from somewhere near Miami, going to another city in Florida, but it was like 6 hours. And I was driving along the motorway, or the highway in American English. And I kept noticing that the car wasn't really running as it should be. And I could see on the dashboard, there were some like lights flickering and popping up. And I started to panic because I was on my own. And I was 21, 22 years old in the deep south of the United States. And the car just kept going slower and slower. And I was like, it looks like the car is going to break down. And yes, it did break down. And it was summer, it was boiling hot. I had to pull over and park the car just to the side of the motorway. And I had a really old phone as well. So it's not even like I had an iPhone. It was like a little brick. And I had to call like the organizers of the summer camps, being like, help, I'm in the middle of nowhere. My car has broken down. Save me. So basically, long story short, I waited there for a few hours, and then like roadside assistance came to pick up the car, take it to, I think it was a garage in the middle of nowhere also. And then later they replaced the rented car, and I could continue driving to my next location. But it was stressful and it wasn't fun. And whenever anything breaks down, you don't know what to do. You're powerless. And it was like, no.
Imagine if your phone had broken at the same time, then you'd be really stuck.
Oh, that would be horrible. So yeah,
Don't
I
even know
think
what you do.
the only real thing that's broken down, usually with like my phone and my laptop, touch wood, it usually works without any problems. How about you? The same question. Has any of your gear or devices broken down before?
I think I had one experience. Like, I don't know if it's broken down really. Like, I've had a few little scares. Let's put it that way. I've never had like a computer just die and break down on me, but I've had a few scares where things have, files have been corrupted, things have been deleted. So yeah, I wouldn't say break down, but because of these scares, I'm super careful now. I back up everything 3 times.
Oh, wow.
So I've got many, several backups in case one fails. So, things can break, things can explode. I'm going to be safe, hopefully. Knock on wood.
Exactly. Yeah. Fingers crossed, as I said. It's interesting. You said knock on wood, and I usually use touch wood. So we have two expressions to say the same thing. I'm not sure if one of them is more American and one is more British, and then it's kind of they're intertwined now, and British people use American English and vice versa. But yeah, we can say touch wood or knock on wood.
Yeah, I suspect one might be more American, but I don't know which. But yeah, I think a lot of people would be surprised at how often British people use American English these days.
If you think about cookies, like it's true that in the UK we do distinguish cookies and biscuits, because biscuits would be like the ones that your grandma maybe would give you, digestives, hobnobs, custard creams. Oh, I'm getting hungry now. And then cookies would be the ones that come in a kind of emoji form of like a perfect circle with like chocolate chips. When you break it, it's a little bit gooey.
Yeah, cookie is a type of biscuit in the UK, right?
Exactly, 100%. Awesome. All right, let's do maybe one more. So I'm curious about this one. What is something you tend to put off until the last minute?
Ooh, I mean, there's so many things. Like, how could I start, or where should I start? Put off. I'll just say the first thing that came to my head, so there's no awkward silence. But the first, one of the big things I put off would be, to be honest, editing my conversation episodes I do, because it takes so much longer than the ones I do on my own. And I think they're more enjoyable. Hopefully, listeners agree. But because there's just 2 files and there's interruptions, there's problems, there's internet issues. There's so many things that just takes forever, hours and hours to edit one episode. So I've got some on my desktop right now that should be released in a few weeks, but I'm just like, no, I'll do it later. And I'll probably do it like 2 weeks before and have to rush. And yeah, that's something I always put off, and I really shouldn't.
Awesome. No, I think it's natural. Usually, like at school, people would put off doing their homework until the night before, and people tend to procrastinate as well. Were you or are you a procrastinator?
I mean, generally, no. I think it's one of my good skills, one of my few skills, that I'm very disciplined. I'd like to do things as soon as I can. For example, when I did my CELTA course, the teacher training course a few years ago, I would get feedback from the teachers like, Michael, you're handing things in too soon. Like, give it some more time. Like, because I just want to get it out of the way and do it so I can just not stress and live, go about my day in a relaxed way. And they would kind of get annoyed, like, Michael, give it some more time. You might want to change something later. So if anything, it's the opposite problem, that I want to do everything right now, and that's just not always possible.
No, it's interesting. You are an eager beaver. You are a very eager person. You're an enthusiastic person. You're an eager beaver. And to be honest, I'm a little bit similar. With things that I enjoy doing, I want to get them done as quickly as possible. Even if we take these conversations as an example, Once I get into the groove and I start sending messages to people to organize these conversations, then I'm like, okay, I did 3 last week. Let's do 3 more. Let's do 10. And I always try to get ahead with work, which is another fantastic phrasal verb. If you get ahead with work, it's like you're progressing and you're doing it often before it needs to be done. So right now, I'm getting ahead with these conversations. So in the future, I can focus on other things. And the opposite of to get ahead with work is to fall behind with work. So if you're really busy, you've got a lot of classes, you've got some deadlines, but you're not going to meet the deadlines, you are falling behind with work.
Yeah, I think it's very similar to put off, but I would say put off is you are taking that you're doing the action of, I'll do it later. You're making that decision. Whereas falling behind is more like it just happens to you. You're not actively deciding to do that. So if you put something off, you may fall behind. I think they're kind of related, aren't they?
Exactly, 100%. Cool. Well, I think we'll call it a day more or less here, but final question, Michael. I'm always interested. I'm always curious. What is your favorite Thai dish? Your favorite Thai food?
To be honest, I'm really not much of a foodie. There's another expression, a foodie, someone who likes food. I love like smoothies and drinks and things like that. I'm a big fan of, but food, I'm not crazy about food, but if we're talking about Thai food, the one that comes to mind is mango sticky rice. Have you had that before?
I don't think I have, I think I've seen photos, but I haven't actually tried it myself.
It's obviously a dessert, and it's the kind of thing that you can't really have in Europe because mangoes just don't taste as good. They're not fresh like they are here. So it's very simple. It's just mangoes, sticky rice, which is like dessert rice, with a kind of sweet coconut cream poured over the top, often with these little like Rice Krispie things as well. And very simple. It really, really is filling. It fills you up. And yeah, I've kind of got bored of it, to be honest, because I've had it too much. But I'll give it a break. I'll come back to it because that is one of my favorites.
And now this is unusual. It's interesting. I was expecting pad Thai or like Thai green or red curry, but it's nice to hear a dessert as well. And now if I ever go to a Thai restaurant, I'm going to see if it's on the menu and be like, excuse me, do you have any mango sticky rice? But maybe in Europe, it just won't quite be the same.
Yeah.
Who knows?
You might want to save yourself for when you come back here.
Exactly.
You need to have high expectations.
Yeah. When, if, now I'd love to. So let's see what happens.
Let's say when.
Exactly. When, for sure. No, yeah, that's it. So thank you so much, Michael, for joining us. And thank you, everybody, for watching this or listening to it. If you have any questions, let us know in the comments. If you'd like to know more about Thailand as well, feel free to ask. And on that note, yeah, that's it. Let's wrap it up, which is the opposite of kick off, to start, and to wrap up is to finish. So once again, Michael, a pleasure, and thank you so much.
Likewise. Thank you very much. It's been really fun.
Awesome. Until next time. Bye-bye.
Thanks for watching. Like, subscribe, and see you next time.